Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. You know, real quick, a year ago today, I was in South Carolina in Utahville along the lake there with a wonderful family that had invited my kids and myself to come down. My wife was working that night before, and we were getting ready to watch the most amazing spectacle that I have ever seen outside of witnessing the birth of my children. That's also pretty amazing if you haven't done that. But the total solar eclipse was a year ago today, and then I got home and packed up the Tahoe into the wee hours of the morning on August 22nd, and then I left for Texas, and we all know what transpired after that. I'll probably talk more about that tomorrow. So here we are today, Hurricane Outlook and discussion time. Real quick, looking at the Atlantic Basin, nothing happening at all out this way. Lots of sinking air, just overall a very negative pattern. There's a lot of mid-level dry air as well intruded through here. Not so much African dust per se, but just mid-level dry air. And you've got to have a moisture source outside of the ocean. The warm ocean temperatures are not enough. The moisture levels in the mid-levels of the atmosphere have to be sufficiently high, and it's not there yet. And there are some changes coming, though, it does appear. If we look at this tweet here from Ben Knoll, again, this pattern of this anomalous sinking air over the Atlantic is forecast to fade in the early parts of September, as he outlines here in this tweet. And you can see that starting to show up here in this diagram. And I've talked about this before. We'll address it more in the coming days. But essentially, this green that shows up here around the first part of September is favorable for upward motion across the tropics. So the map down here denotes where this would happen, and then this is your time scale. This is a Havmoller diagram. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we'll talk about this more later, but for the next week to 10 days, nothing going on in the Atlantic Basin. Now, the focus will now obviously shift to Lane, Hurricane Lane Category 4 in the Central Pacific here, and it is heading in the general direction. Eventually, it'll turn more towards Hawaii, and then some very interesting things could happen, both from a meteorological perspective, from a geologic perspective, and of course the human impact perspective. A lot of things coming together. This is not Florida, obviously. This is not Taiwan. When typhoons hit Taiwan, they exact a certain toll and they do behave a certain way. And when hurricanes impact Hawaii, they undergo some very interesting changes, which we're going to talk about over the course of the next few minutes here. So real quick, you can see a couple of things of note. A very well-defined Category 4 hurricane. The eye right in here, surrounded by very deep convection. That red area that you can see there is, that's the upward motion of the atmosphere. Let's see if I can zoom in on this web page a little bit. There we go. So a deep ring of convection around the eye. 150 mile per hour winds as measured by recon. Very well established outflow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But then over here to the south and west of Hawaii are some stronger upper level winds, and that should help, among other things, to disrupt Lane as it makes that turn that we are anticipating over the next day or two. And that is reflected here in the forecast from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. They're based in Honolulu. And you can see that the forecast track brings Lane turning more to the northwest with time, staying south in terms of a center passage of all the Hawaiian Islands. But as you can imagine, and should imagine, it's not a dot on the map. The center is not going to be what you're worried about here. It's the very heavy rainfall that can envelop these islands, and the upsloping effect of these volcanic peaks could really wring out that rainfall. We call that orographic lift, and the flooding potential is very high, and this is going to be a big problem even if it weakens, if it doesn't hit directly, making landfall, technically this is going to be problematic for the people in Hawaii. And how much of a impact this has, it's impossible to know because this is such a complicated situation. And now let me show you the GFS here. This is the animation from Levi Cowan's wonderful work at tropicaltidbits.com. So you notice this is just an infinite loop here. Notice as it starts out very strong and compact. This is the big island right up here. And watch what happens. You can see it really weakens dramatically on that approach. And the reason that it does so, from what I have been reading, you have this persistent and almost constant lee side, basically like a trough here, west of Hawaii. Remember, the trade winds are coming along, briskly blowing in from the east, and then you've got those winds will go up and over the peaks and then down the other side. That downsloping wind on this side of Hawaii dries the air out. It will disrupt the entire circulation of Lane, and it could do so very dramatically, that we see this weaken very, very quickly. Now, the bad part is it looks like it comes up the center very close to the Big Island, which means that the Big Island, although not the big population center that Oahu is, with about 1 million people or so, the Big Island could wring out most of that moisture. So we are talking about the potential for catastrophic flooding and a major, major disaster from all of that rainfall. I dare say this could be unprecedented. So honestly, forget the category and the wind. Don't forget the wind, but I'm really concerned about the flood potential from this. And even though this weakens incredibly fast and significantly so to tropical storm pressures, 1,003, 1,006 millibars or so, an epic collapse of the core, but then the residual moisture and circulation would impact the rest of the island chain, Maui and Oahu and beyond. Okay, so this is tough. This is a really tough situation, and I hope that people are not thinking of hurricane, okay, wind, surge, rain, big waves, whatever. Oh, it's going to hit the Big Island, and I don't live on the side of the island where it looks like it might make landfall, and at least in this model. I mean, remember, the forecast, the official forecast, does not show a landfall, whereas the GFS brings it right up, something like this, almost turning it into the island here, that west side of the Big Island. And we're running out of time. Okay, this is going to be happening over the next 3 days or so, and that's just not a long time for people to prepare. I saw this tweet that somebody was talking about the different products that the Hurricane Center releases, and this one shows us the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds. There's the Big Island of Hawaii right there, and it's called Hawaii. So Thursday by 8 in the morning, the most likely time that tropical storm force winds could arrive. Thursday morning, okay? That's 48 hours from now. All right? It's not a week from now. That's just 48 hours out. And if we look at this from a geographic perspective here on the Google Maps, again, the approach coming in from the south, even if it does turn like this or whatever, would bring a lot of rain and some wind. But the GFS solution, where it brings it up very close to the west side of Hawaii, and you got these peaks in here, I'm going to zoom in a second, and then it turns west. Why does it do that? Why does it do that westward turn? And let's look at that again. See that? It comes up, it's west-northwest, northwest, and then north, and then it kind of gets pulled into the island, and bam, it's like it bounces off. Why does it do that? Well, because right now, and in the first few frames, it is a deep system in the atmosphere. It'll be moving along with the deeper flow. And there is a weakness in the atmosphere up here that's going to try to pull it north, called a trough. But then as it decouples and gets completely sacked by the Big Island, that convection or deepness that it's existing in the atmosphere shallows very quickly. And so your low-level trades here start to take over, and it pushes what is a shallower system in the atmosphere more west. So the weaker it is, the more west it goes. The stronger it is, the more north it goes, typically, in this scenario. And so that being said, you know, if it bounces off and heads in this direction, that's because it really probably spent most of its energy over the island of Hawaii. And that is very concerning, because if we zoom in here, and I think you know this as well as I do, yeah, I mean, we're talking about huge mountain peaks there, not to mention what's been going on with the active volcano that has had a lot of news headlines this summer. Wow, I mean, this is... So I don't know what to do now in terms of my involvement with this. I'll try to bring the camera back up. Do I fly to Honolulu and then over to Hilo? I don't know. I mean, that is some serious rainfall that could happen in an area that I'm unfamiliar with. And, I mean, I could be putting my life in danger. And I know you're like, come on, Mark, go. This is what you do. Well, I don't put myself in harm's way on purpose, especially in an area that I am unfamiliar with. And that much rainfall. And in some cases, it could be 20 inches over, and hear me out, peaks that are 13,000 feet into the sky. It's like, hey, I was at a water park yesterday with my family, and going down the water slides, you know, I'm a little over 200 pounds, right? Plus or minus. And the water puts me down the water slide at a pretty good velocity, let's say. And that's only, I don't know, 40, 50 feet in the air, 80 feet at the most on some of the taller ones. I'm being very serious here. That much rain, 20 inches over 13,000 foot mountain peaks? No, thank you. And I'm not going to go to Hilo and just stay there. I'm looking at it on the map there. I mean, even Hilo could be in danger, because all the towns that I would be at along the coast are on the coast and in a lower elevation below that 13,000 foot mountain peak area. I don't have a good feeling about it. I'm going to be honest with you. And if I go to Oahu and stay in Honolulu, what am I going to do there? So I don't think that I should go. I think that it would be very dangerous for the flooding that could happen. And what good am I if I'm, you know, hurt or killed there for the rest of the hurricane season? This really has me worried because of the rainfall more than anything else, the flooding. And I hope I'm wrong, I really do. But I got a very bad feeling right here that the Big Island, I'm looking at it right down there on the Google map, could be in danger here of major catastrophic flooding. We saw what happened in Puerto Rico with that kind of rainfall with Maria. I don't think that I have any business messing with that, to be quite honest with you. My specialty is to set up a ton of equipment in front of dangerous hurricanes and then getting out of the way to stay safe. I cannot airline my arsenal over there. I could take a little bit, but it's not good. I don't have a good feeling about it. And I could be better served maybe talking about it from this side. So I think I'm going to stay here, stateside, and err on the side of caution. All right? I think it's a good decision. We shall see. Thank you for tuning in. I will be on top of it, that is for sure. I am Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com. I'll have more for you tomorrow, if not before.